We are.
All right.
How do you know?
All right, folks.
Because I just got a notification.
I can see it.
I'm
Yes.
interested. All right, so Tina, remember the space.
Why is my phone dinging? It is on. Oh, I gotta turn this guy off because this guy, no matter what I do, makes a noise.
Did you turn the stream on?
I did.
Okay.
We're about to start the show.
High quality. Let me have it. Let me have it.
No, I got it.
Let him have it.
Yeah, let him have it.
That's right. Both
Nope.
barrels.
Nope.
See, I like this dynamic.
Nope.
It's the new Brent in charge model.
Brett, let him have it.
I don't know. about
Dynamic.
that.
He's fierce.
Okay.
He's
so
ready
we're
for
gonna-
anything.
I'm half vaccinated.
Oh,
All right.
I am fully
Is it-
vaccinated.
Which half?
That means you can travel according to the
the
new
waist
rules
down?
that were just announced, right?
Yeah, I heard that the one shot is like 85%, get you 85% of the way. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not.
I don't get it.
Yeah, that's weird.
What?
There's lots of conflicting news around the vaccine. It's clear that science doesn't yet 100% understand it.
All right. We haven't started the show yet.
Okay,
So you get
so
a little closer to the top
I
of the
will after
screen.
you start give me the,
Your hair is like a little weird. No, that makes it weirder. Okay.
yeah, good. I like it weird.
Okay. All right. Laces, everyone. Oh, well, I'm going to wait for Brent.
Doing, Brent.
That's all right. We'll do him last.
He's over there in HM Miniland.
A geek is always a geek. Nothing can get in the way of a geek and his goals.
Geekitude.
Isn't a geek a
Yes, it
sideshow
is. It's a chicken.
freak? Yeah.
Choking chickens. Okay,
All right.
everybody.
Here we go. And mute is off because it's off. And we're going to go in 3, 2, 1, and
Hi, Steve Gilmore here. This is the Gilmore Gang for Friday in
April.
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 We
And-
survived April Fool's Day.
Yeah, I just despise April Fool's Day. I'm sorry to say.
It's okay. It's weird.
And welcome to from the great state of Georgia is Brent Leary.
Him first.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm first. This is great. This is actually a great. You know what? This is April 2nd, right?
Yes.
I literally bought the house I am living in on this day. It was actually a Good Friday in 1999. So this is literally 22 years to the day.
Nice.
But that's not even the best thing today. My birthday was last week, and my CRM Players buddy, co-host Paul Greenberg, I literally just got this 2 minutes ago, right before the show started, an autographed football from the 1973 Los Angeles Rams Western Division champions. And I mean, it's got pretty much every autograph on here.
Wow.
This is just,
great.
I'm completely blown away. This is like
Is that
the best
real?
gift I've ever got. It's real. It actually came with authentication papers.
Wow.
NFT.
Just thinking the same thing, Keith.
This one's staying right here, baby.
Okay. I don't know how Dennis can actually mention
He
that
didn't
while
he didn't
also
go.
saying,
Dennis is-
oh, there he goes.
Oh, there you go.
Excellent.
But I didn't mention it. This is just an awesome. I've never gotten a gift like this. I'm blown away.
That's great. Terrific.
Happy
man,
really
birthday.
Happy.
Yeah, thanks.
And happy anniversary.
Thank you.
And happy birthday.
Thank you.
They
again.
say it's your birthday.
It's my birthday.
It's not my birthday, too.
Oh, it's also, vaccination day. I got the first vaccine shot too. Everything is happening all at once to me. This is great.
This is all good news. Okay, we're done now.
Okay,
right.
so that guy is in London. That's Frank Radis. Welcome.
Howdy. Welcome. Thank you. Hello, gangsters. It's great to be here. Lots of good news today to talk about, not the least of which is the CDC announcements, which we can get into later. But I think I've given you enough time to put up the lower third.
That was all a ploy, huh?
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, since 1973. Yeah. Welcome to Keith Tier. Welcome, Keith.
Very good to be here. And Brent just triggered a memory. I first came to California on April the 2nd, 1997. Moved into a rental in Palo Alto on Byron Street, and never looked back. And that was 24 years ago today.
Sweet.
And
Nice.
pretty amazing.
I had a girlfriend that lived in Palo Alto back in like 1963.
Only in Palo Alto, Frank?
That's
Yes.
where she lived.
She's still there, or
I have no clue. The question I think would be, is she still alive? Like,
Everyone knew her as Nancy, right?
yeah, that's right.
Okay.
But we called her Jane. Betty. We called her Betty.
And also, I had my second vaccine on Tuesday. I had another holy, 24 hours after it. Oh boy, laid me out. But this is the second day of recovery, and I'm feeling pretty normal, just a bit not normal.
You should be filled with antibodies, right? Having had it and then getting over it and having both vaccines, you should be. I think you'll live for the rest of your life.
This is
That's,
the
very
good stuff.
profound.
Yeah, it really is.
By the way,
Insight Central.
for those viewers new to the Gilmore Gang, he didn't know he was making a joke. He said a dumb thing and then realized afterwards how funny it was.
No, I think he did it
Wow.
on purpose because he wants Tina to make this a sneak peek.
But we know the rule. If you think it's a sneak peek, it isn't.
I had no idea it was going to be that funny, honestly.
Me neither.
Okay.
Think about that for a minute. And while you're thinking about that, welcome to Dennis Pombriant.
That would be me. Speaking of April Fool's Day, it reminded me that when I was growing up, I went to a French-speaking school, and the big April Fool's joke in Franco land, I guess, is giving someone a dead fish. It's known as the Poisson d'Avril. And yeah, that's why I'm glad I'm an American.
Wow, it's like the kiss from a wet fish. Or is that a dead fish?
It could be a horse's head in your bed. I don't know.
Acre bleu is all I can say to that.
Yeah, what does that mean? I mean, I know I have like a kind of a bastardized version of what it means, but what does those words specifically mean when you translate?
Holy blue.
Holy blue.
So,
Yeah, well,
sacred,
bleu.
sacred blue.
Yeah,
Which
there
is,
you
of course,
go.
which is the color of the French football team shirt. So it's also Allez les Bleus.
But
The
it sounds like it's supposed to be something negative, but all it is holy blue. I mean,
It's like holy
No.
shit. It's like
Well, it's
holy
like-
shit.
I suppose
like that, but-
saying bloody in
But that would be sacré merde.
No,
Yes.
the French national color seems to be that shade of blue, and their racing teams all use it. So if you're doing like auto racing, British racing green is the British color, blue is the French color. I don't know who's got red or orange, but the national teams all kind of gravitate to one color.
so when they say sacre bleu, that's not a negative. That's like a holy cow kind of thing. Or
It's a holy cow.
Okay. I always thought it was like a negative, something bad. just
Agree.
happened. Hmm.
Sacre
Okay. Sorry to beat that one into the ground.
No, it
Well,
was
it's
good.
the beginning of something. It's a new trend.
Mm.
Continue, please.
No thanks.
We're good. I think we're good.
I warned you. I warned you, Brent.
I blame all this on the vaccine, by the way. Everything.
Oh, okay.
So
There you
speaking of
go.
the vaccine,
Oh, hang on a sec.
the-
Before we do that,
Okay.
our colleague and compatriot Michael Markman may dial in. He's fending for his pooch, and so can't be here. But he said, interestingly, that when I spoke with him, he said that he's really bummed, as he put it. This is an 80s or 60s term, I guess. He's really bummed because there's so much to talk about. So, Brent.
No. So Brent, go to somebody else. You just set us all up for, and then I'm blanking. I'm too busy thinking about Lawrence McCutcheon. I got Lawrence McCutcheon's autograph on this football. Don't go to Brent. Go somewhere else, please.
All right, Frank, you by default, you get it.
Speaking of pooches, Republicans came down harder on Joe Biden for having a major problem than they did on Matt Gaetz for having a major problem.
I saw that headline. Well, what does that
I think
mean?
so. Well, he has a major problem in that the alleged girl that he was with was under 17. That would be a minor. And Major is the name of Biden's dog, who did two things. He bit for a second time somebody at the White House and left a nice juicy present somewhere in the White House on the carpet in front of I want to say the Oval Office front door. I don't know. But the funny thing is that the Republicans were apparently making such a big deal out of that, as opposed to talking about this great infrastructure plan that Biden has presented, that McConnell has now said the Republicans are just going to bury before he gets anywhere. Kind of makes me wonder, aren't they supposed to now be the party of the common man, the working man? I don't know.
In reference to that, I saw some data the other day that said that the infrastructure plan was actually more popular among voters who were given a choice. If the infrastructure plan did not raise taxes on the wealthy, or if it did, and it was actually more popular if it raised taxes. 53% of the Republicans surveyed said that they were in favor of the infrastructure plan. It makes me think, and this is an evolving story, but it makes me think that Donald Trump broke conservatism. We're starting to hear all kinds of analysis that talks about how the paradigm is shifting, how people are more open to alternatives to the status quo, and a lot of that can be traced to Trump and his excesses. I'm very interested in seeing what happens next.
So, are you saying that the electorate is more interested in change? Where does that put the Congress?
Well, the House of Representatives seems to be on track with the general population. The Senate seems to be in a world of its own, on some other planet like Uranus or something.
We shouldn't be talking about the planet Uranus in mixed company.
All right, Uranus.
But
Thanks for the clap.
I was struck by Michael Markman posted an article into the Gilmore Gang real-time newsletter feed, t.me/Gilmore Gang, which went into a lot of depth about America's manufacturing base decline being the source of most of the current problems. And when you look at the infrastructure bill, when you get past the headlines, which are mainly good, it is kind of disappointing that there is no real focus on manufacturing. Even things like, there's no high-speed train plan, for example. There's nothing very future. There's all this stuff about care. There's all this stuff about electric vehicles, which is almost the only future thing. But it's a small
Yeah,
portion of the
save
whole
the
plan.
world. Well, we'll get to it.
Well,
Well,
but
you know-
there was an X billion dollars set aside for Wi-Fi.
Yeah, about
but
35.
it's all kind of same old themes. There isn't really been any really big thinking behind it, I don't feel. I mean, it's
Well, you
still
know-
good, don't get me wrong. I'd rather have it than not have it, but it's a bit disappointing how pedestrian it is.
Well, you know,
Boy, it's a
that's an
lot less
interesting-
pedestrian
It's like-
than Trump's infrastructure week, which had nothing at all.
Well, I mean,
Well, let's not compare it to
infrastructure-
Trump.
the
That's a
joke
lot
about
more.
Infrastructure Week was that the Republicans didn't want to support infrastructure, and they still don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, okay, but there was a piece in the Times this morning about the infrastructure plan and about how we don't really need $2 trillion. We need something closer to 10. And the article went on to talk about how Biden and Obama before him had a choice of fixing what's broken, which is a lot, or going straight to building new. And the problem with just building new is that you leave a lot of stuff behind that still needs to be repaired. So you put those two things together, and I'm thinking we're not going to see one infrastructure. I think when you look at infrastructure, you have to look at it from the same perspective as the New Deal. The New Deal was a series of programs, not one big thing.
I hope that's true. I don't know if you noticed, but China poked fun at it, contrasting China infrastructure rate of change with the American, and they, you can't disagree. It's
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
China's
But,
on a-
you
China's
got
on
to
a
start
buying-
somewhere.
China's on a buying spree now too, isn't it? I thought I saw this interesting story about how Iran had been making deals with the Chinese, the Russians, a couple of the stands for an area of the Caspian Sea. So they're creating this coalition around this part of the Caspian Sea. Which I find kind of interesting. So there's money that I guess it's an effort on the part of Iran to get around our allies and America's sort of grip on their finances, giving them an opportunity to try and pull out of it. So China's, they just seem to be ready to spend money on anything.
They do. There have been other articles that say that a lot of countries that China is offering its attentions to aren't necessarily happy to be in their sights. Vietnam, for example, seems to be nudging its way over towards the American side. The United States really needs to rejoin the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP. Yeah. And I don't know you can't do everything in the first 100 days, but that's going to be a huge thing on the list.
And there was also some talk that we may be inching closer to rejoining the Iran nuclear deal, although I find that interesting in light of what's happening with the China spend in Iran. It's all very complicated. Who would have thought that that sort of these kinds of world issues would be this complicated?
But transitional periods in history.
Thank you, Steve.
Transition periods in history always throw up all of these things. Like Iran's a great example. If you look at the first Shah, the Mossadegh regime, the second Shah, and the Ayatollah, and you look at how England, Britain, and America took sides, they were almost always on opposite sides, because America was the replacement for the UK, and that played out through various proxy relationships including in Israel, by the way, the Palestinian Protectorate, which was British, versus the new Israel, which America backed, or NASA and Pan-Arabism, which America supported and Britain was against. So these transitional moments, the new leader of the world and the old leader of the world, they play out their conflict everywhere, hopefully peacefully.
It feels like
Good point.
America, when it sticks its nose in, makes these huge mistakes. I mean, wasn't it Eisenhower that put the first Shah, Reza Pahlavi, in place? And then it was an American president that basically pushed Reza Pahlavi in and opened the door for the Ayatollah Khomeini to come in. And think about what happened in Iraq. And I mean, it just feels like every time we stick our nose, we become the world's police force, and we screw things up.
Well, we screw
Well, you
things
have
up
no choice.
because
You have no choice.
Go ahead, Dennis.
we screw things up not because we want to be the world's police force, but because we have a single-threaded aim in Iran. It was oil. Iran has most of, or a great deal of, the remaining oil on the planet. It's high sulfur and it's highly viscous, so it doesn't compare to North Sea Brent or West Texas Intermediate, but we're getting to the point where we have to distill that along with oil from the Orinoco Basin in Venezuela.
I was just going to say that Venezuelan oil is really
I mean, if you're a connoisseur of oil, them ain't the oils you want. But everywhere else,
it's better than shale oil, I guess.
it's easier to extract. It's a little more effort to distill.
I'm just curious. Who is a connoisseur of oil? I never. You okay?
Okay.
Would that be like a sommelier?
Well, if there is an analogous. I mean, if you think of the difference between a light and fruity Pinot Noir and a heavy Cabernet, oil has the same range of ingredients and balance between its elements and fineness at the end of the day.
Well,
I love, though, Dennis, you posted a story on your newsletter which I found fascinating, which was about is it a city that's going, it's Los Angeles that's going to use batteries as backup power?
I think so. Yeah, LA is doing a lot of innovative stuff. They've got they're converting their entire bus fleet to electric buses. For example, they're really pushing the envelope.
And of course, the Hyperloop is a thing, right?
It's in Elon's mind. It is.
Yeah, they spent a lot of money on the marketing of something that isn't.
but was it really money that he spent?
Might have been cryptocurrency, or
Yeah.
maybe he just created this whole thing and turned it into an NFT.
I think with
Thanks
Elon,
for joining us, Dennis. Really appreciate it.
I was just waiting for Dennis to get. There you go.
Yeah.
I think
I told you.
Elon has a
Go ahead.
modus operandi, Frank. In the early days of Tesla, when Draper Fisher invested in it, I remember the launch event, and there was this like one sports car early version of the Tesla, and it wasn't real until it was real. But then it got to a tipping point because he doesn't give in, and then it became real, but lost a lot of money, and he still didn't give in and nearly lost his money, and then it really became real, and now it became profitable. He's done that with SpaceX. He does it over and over, and the thing about him is people will give him money because now he's proven twice that he can go through the journey, and there's an unlimited amount of money if the end game is big enough. I mean, there's no lack of money. That's one of the ironies of the infrastructure bill. $2 trillion. $2 trillion is what private equity moves around every day.
It sounds like a weekly SPAC. You know. Listen, that's a
Well-
big deal now. As I mentioned last week, CNBC now has the SPAC 500.
Well, good for them.
If you think that Musk has generated as much
It's an
value,
NFT, by the way, Dennis.
I was going to say, if you measure how much value Musk has created with the solar stuff, the cars, and SpaceX, it probably adds up to a big chunk of our annual GDP, bigger than the infrastructure bill.
So
So we
Dennis,
Not in 1 year.
we shouldn't
Dennis,
sweat
what-
the interview.
Dennis, what's your take on the likelihood of the infrastructure bill passing?
Well, I think it's quite high. I think it actually will pass. They can do it by reconciliation, and if all they get done this session of Congress is infrastructure and relief, then they're going to be putting so much money into the economy that it's going to put them in the Democrats in very good position for the midterm elections. And if the midterms go the way they want, I think only then will the Democrats begin an effort to tame the filibuster. I don't think you're going to see the filibuster approached before the midterms.
Do you think that they're going to be able to pass an infrastructure bill with a simple majority?
Yes, because it'll affect the budget, and it will therefore fall under reconciliation rules.
And they're allowed two reconciliations per session, correct?
Well, I saw an article this week that said they have two left, and I think Biden was talking about that. They have two left, and they're going to work with the Senate parliamentarian to make sure. But if they've only got one left and they do infrastructure, I'd say that's a pretty good first 2 years for the Biden administration.
So, Frank,
aren't they going to want to try and pull this Voting Rights Act into to make it like the third of sort of like a tripod of movement on the part of the Democrats? I mean, that's certainly getting a lot of Republican pushback. And
Well,
not only that, in the states, look at Georgia.
Yeah. Well, I mean, strategically, if I was doing this, I'd make voting rights third, because I don't see how you can do that with reconciliation. And I would go to the people in 22 and say, look, with a simple majority, we pass these big things. We can't get 60 votes to pass voting rights. What do you want to do?
That sounds like a platform to run on.
I got to go. I'll go make my declaration now. No.
I mean, it sounds like a good strategy. To me.
Yeah. Well, the fly in the ointment is how regressive are the Republicans going to make voting in 22? I mean, certainly the Justice Department can do a few things. You can sue the states and take it to the Supreme Court, and certainly a lot of what's gone on in Georgia looks anti-constitutional to me. But can that all be resolved before the election? That's the key.
What about gun control? I mean, isn't that certainly on the tip of everybody's tongue? It's like somebody I read somewhere wrote that there are like 128 versions of some kind of restrictive voting activity going on in the states, yet there's nothing going on with gun control. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, gun control might have to wait for the filibuster. If I was Biden, though, I think I'd declare a national emergency and curtail the sales of ammunition.
For the first time this week ever since my 24 years in the States, I saw serious commentary discussing changing the Second Amendment.
Yeah, I don't think you need to change it.
Well, they talked about tightening so that only militias, which don't exist, could benefit from it.
I think the Proud Boys would say they were a militia.
See, I would take a
No, it's
different tack.
well formed militias, which means, you know,
State
whatever.
sponsored.
Wow, Brent, you just blew me away, man.
New camera.
Sepia. Wow.
It's not focusing, Brent.
I know it's a black magic. It doesn't do autofocus really well.
Yeah, but I like the depth of field, babe. It's looking
Yeah,
good.
it's the cinematic view. So when I want to say something really dramatic, I'll go to you guys like this.
I like that. You turn.
But I don't have anything right now. I don't have anything for you right now, so I'm going back to this.
On my newsletter video last week, I used my Sony A7S III.
Ooh.
And everyone was saying, wow, that's a great picture.
I
Yeah.
love it when you talk dirty, Keith. I really do.
Could I throw something out there? Besides my
Gee,
friend
I don't
football,
know.
but-
That was
Um,
You know, the rules really don't permit that kind of actual spontaneous outburst, but go ahead.
Jeez. Okay. Well, I just saw an article. I put it in the app, as we like to say for this. That this is the 45th anniversary of Apple. I was just thinking it'd be interesting to get everybody's thoughts on what's the best thing Apple has done in those 45 years.
Take money from Bill Gates.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's the best one, really?
No, they were
I
dead.
think they were gone, and then that happened.
It is testament to Gates that he was prepared to do that. I mean, it
Yeah,
blows
he
me
saved
away
them.
that Gates did that.
Yeah. Well, every Mac is capable of running Microsoft Office. It has been for decades.
So I retweeted somebody in the Twitter stream who was just basically blown away by the incredible power of the M1 MacBook Air, which I totally agree with. So I did that, and I got several likes almost immediately. So there's what is that all about? Does anybody want to venture as to why that might be a really significant moment in Apple and Apple's life?
Well, it's clearly driven by science and the ability to produce hardware that comes from the science. The whole concept of system on a chip, you know, is kind of fine-tuned to what the machine has to get done. And so you can take a relatively less powerful CPU, put a system on a chip with GPUs and associated elements, and produce performance that blows away a separate CPU. And that's an infrastructure change for the industry that blindsides everyone. And they now have to play catch up to create their own system on a chip, and it's hard. It takes years. I can tell you, back in 2007, I worked as a contractor with a company doing video rendering, an Israeli company, and the lead chip maker in that company left to join Apple as part of their ARM team. And that was 2007. And we're now in 2021. You know, this is painstaking, long-term planning coming good. And you could think of the iPhone and the iPad as just steps along the way where they were able to test and trial. It's good stuff. And, you know, Microsoft isn't in that game. Google is saying it's going to do a system on a chip for its next Android phone, but it hasn't got it yet. Google obviously isn't in the game when it comes to computers, or it has the Chromebook, which is a different market. So who could be in the game? I mean, Intel is definitely not in the game, although they've announced that they understand the challenge and they're going to go for it. They're going to try and make a system on a chip. So Apple is basically blindsided. I'm going to guess jump somewhere between 5 and 10 years ahead of the market.
So, but, and I have my Mac Mini, the M1, and I can't wait for the M1X. But are we thinking that these new chips, you know, designed and manufactured by Apple, are going to be more disruptive and more revolutionary than what the iPod and the iPad and the phone were? Because I mean, I can't even remember life before, what life was like before those things.
I
Well,
don't think
I've been working with the MacBook Pro M1 for a month now, and it's completely changed the workflow, and it's essentially, I'd say, doubled or even tripled the output coming from the various things that we're doing. Tina's been doing these sneak peeks, which I consider fascinating because they're plugging into, I mean, first of all, we're just copying, fast following Brent, who's been doing this for years, but with his excerpts from Playas and various other shows that he has. But there's something about the synergy of being able to conceptualize content across these emerging platforms, which, obviously we can, I mean, the NFT, no, I'm just kidding.
Dennis has his finger poised.
Yes. The platforms of newsletters and what's briefly called social audio they're outliers until you're in an environment where you can just basically, you've got the horsepower at a very low price to be able to create the means of production for a range of social and viral broadcasting globally. That's a paradigm shift that will, I think it'll make the move to mobile. This is a move back to, I mean, this is a mobile device in the sense that it's essentially an iPad Pro, but it has this capability of being able to absorb this range of it's like desktop publishing was, I think, which is where Apple came from. It's where the consumer revolution around being able to use a computer to basically enter the business market while at the same time having access to an entertainment environment. And it's taken. Go ahead.
Was there going to be an M1 chip iPhone?
Well, they already
are. They all are,
is.
Basically.
They already are. It's just that they give them a different designation. They're called A something,
right?
Instead of M something, but they're the same architecture.
And that's the 12?
Every one going all the way back. That's how they built up the capability.
The A chips, yeah.
So how far back did the A chips go? I don't mean
right
to sound
right
like
to the beginning.
Idiot.
2007.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Steve, what you're bringing up is something that we've seen before in the evolution of technology. It seems, and I'm not original in saying this, but every new platform has had its killer application. And it seems like we might be looking for the killer application for the M1 chip at this point. There are a lot of good candidates.
Yeah, and there are
a lot of them.
So list them, please, Brent.
Well, one of them is video, of course. Anything that's intense in graphic processing, gaming, videos, those things. I mean, I've seen a number of the videos on YouTube where they're comparing the 2019 MacBook Pro, with that you can attach a external graphics GPU, and people paid like $4 and $5 grand to get 32 gig on it, and they compare it to they're compared it to either the new MB13 or even the Mac Mini that's running on the M1. And these are like what, $1,300, roughly $1,300, $1,400 pricing compared to a $4,000 with an external GPU. And the performance is in some instances is a little better and some a little worse, but the price to performance is like ridiculous skewed to the M1s. And then so you're trying to wonder, well, what's this M1X chip going to be like when they put it in these new 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros? And the pricing, even if the pricing is 15, 16, or maybe 2,000, the performance you get is way far and above what you were paying, just a couple of years ago for, these ridiculous big laptops.
I think the killer app is no fan. The fact that this thing is
that
truly
great, yeah.
silent.
That is so good.
Yeah, but we've got both. Tina has the MacBook Air M1, and I have the MacBook Pro M1, and the fan is really a non-issue for high volume and intense rendering. You can hear, you see the performance drop a little bit. But they've solved that problem with the MacBook Pro version, which is
I was getting ready to say I have a 2016 MacBook Pro, and it's kind of beefy. The fan goes off like when I first even put one app. The thing kicks in, and every time I want to do something in Premiere Pro, I got to shut pretty much everything down.
Yeah, it sounds like a hairdryer basically all of a sudden.
Yeah. Whereas my M1 Mac Mini, does it have a fan? Because I haven't heard it before.
But I think there's a bigger game in play here. I think this M1 Macs are just a small stepping stone to something even more interesting, which I think Apple has understood now for quite a number of years. They start with the human being, and they think about your eyes, your ears, your hands, and your voice. And their software roadmap seems to be building capabilities that enhance all of those things. Touch, AirPods. You saw the Microsoft HoloLens contract with the US military for $22 billion this week. Yes. Apple's going to be ahead of that game where the eyes come into play. And I think the M1 platform is the platform on which they can do all of that at reduced scale, at lower price with higher performance. And I just think Apple is unstoppable.
Yeah, why did the military go towards? Why did the military choose Microsoft when we think that Apple is leaps and bounds ahead of them?
It's a good question.
Sorry,
right?
There was a noise here, and I say it again.
He asked why you were wrong.
Oh. No, that's not exactly what I said. I said, but although that would stir the pot, what I said was, why would the military make a decision? Look, we know how these things get done and how these kinds of purchasing things get done. But the idea that the military would jump into such a huge project with Microsoft, with things like what we're discussing right now, talking about sort of the where Apple is headed. Why jump in before Apple gets to that point?
I didn't actually understand it either. I understood the interest in HoloLens for things like battlefield simulation and stuff. It's obvious, but I didn't understand why such a big contract all at once for a technology that's only at the beginning.
Well, not only that, but this is the second multi-billion-dollar contract the Defense Department awards to Microsoft this year or within the last 12 months. It was also the $10 billion Star Wars Jedi award that Oracle, I think, should have won. I think Oracle had significantly better technology than Microsoft, and now Microsoft beats Apple. I don't get it.
Well, wasn't Microsoft, wasn't AWS really ahead before the former president kind of stuck his finger into things, and then Microsoft leapfrogged him.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that doesn't really say anything about Apple's position, does it?
Well, Apple hasn't really. I mean, we in the enterprise, Apple hasn't come close to cracking it like all these other guys have.
Well, true.
I think
About
one of
the legacy of Microsoft, maybe that's enough.
I think one of the things you need to consider with Microsoft is versus Apple is that Microsoft has, I think, more big project experience, more hierarchical organizational chops than Apple does, and I think actually that's one of the reasons why Microsoft won the Jedi contract as well. I believe that down the road you're going to see that Microsoft turns into the prime contractor, not the sole source, not the sole deliverer, and I suspect.
Also, if you're the nation state, in this whole world of tech and end-to-end encryption, Microsoft is the most benign player that's the most supportive of what the state needs the future to look like. Apple is intensely pro-encryption. Google is intensely pro-encryption. Amazon is intensely pro-encryption.
So is Oracle.
Oracle is, and it's interesting this week, the British police announced that they're asking for backdoors into encrypted platforms, and they're probably going to make a law that requires it, and because they're against encryption. So I think encryption is going to become a huge battleground between states and tech.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're damned if you do it, damned if you don't, because encryption helps protect you from the North Koreans, the Iranians, the Russians, and so the question becomes: is it worth it to not have the evidence you need for a single murderer versus putting a kibosh on your anti-Soviet Russian program?
Plus, you lose all your arguments against the assumption that Huawei has backdoors because you're asking for them too.
Exactly.
Well, we can have the back door. They can't, basically. We don't. It's all about who has the back door.
Well, because we're Superman and they're the Joker.
Well, yeah, but China will still issue a press release saying that their back door is better than our back door.
Wow, it's come to that. Is somebody getting their lawn done right now, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Normally you tell me you can't hear it, but obviously this week you can.
We were trying to ignore it for a little while. But,
So I find it fascinating that this point that I'm trying to make has so far eluded Keith and others, which is while we're sitting here talking about the future, there's this device that is probably going to have a ripple effect on everything that we do right now that's in the marketplace. As Brent pointed out, the price performance is extraordinary. The power, the ability to multitask, if you will, with multiple windows without melting the hardware is extraordinary. And it's strong in these emerging political technologies like video and streaming.
yeah, I forgot about streaming. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we all know how important the iPhone was to Apple's success and its emergence as a rival to, and in some cases, eclipsing Microsoft for a period of time. What do we think is going on here? Is this just a new hardware device? I don't think so.
I think you're right, and it's going to take a while before we understand what's so special.
Yeah, but less of a while than worrying about China, taking over on the global economic stage. At least that's
You
what
know,
I think.
No, they don't.
I think you're right, Steve. It probably isn't just a new hardware device. Hey, kitties. It probably isn't just a new hardware device, but isn't that what we thought at first when the iPhone? Maybe not. I was gonna say,
No, we did not.
We did look at
No,
the
we
iPhone
knew
as
we were
transformative.
we were doing videos of Mark Benioff basically saying, "Yeah, I want this. I want it now, and it's the deal." He had a different idea of what the deal was, but the intersection of consumer and enterprise is extraordinarily powerful, and it's dominated the last 15 years. So, are we at another inflection point? I think we are.
Yeah. Let's not forget how important the BlackBerry was in the enterprise world when in the very
That's
beginning.
right. That's exactly that's where Mark was at the introduction of the iPhone. He was saying, I'm not letting go of this BlackBerry because it's got this keyboard. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
But you're right, Steve. You're right, but I think it's not appropriate to compare the significance of it to the whole China stuff. Remember, the M1 is manufactured in Shanghai. All the components come from Chinese sources. It is assembled there. That is all income to China. It's then exported from China, which creates further trade imbalance between the US and China. So Apple is a major contributor to China's success, more probably than the US is.
Well, then what you're saying is that China is a major contributor to the Apple's success.
He was saying, no, you're wrong, Steve.
That's I got that part.
Well, the trade flows between China and the US are 200 billion in one direction and 600 billion in the other. In other words, we sell 600 billion to China and we buy 200 billion from them.
Don't you have that backwards?
No, wait a minute. The other way around.
Yeah.
The other way around.
Okay, well, that's clear.
Now, what that means is Apple is contributing to the China numbers, their revenue, and it's also contributing to the American numbers, but more to China.
Can I take it a little different direction? I think everybody, have you heard how often people are talking about the creator economy now, and everybody's a creator? When you couple that with this new M1 and the price productivity point going so down, and people are shooting video like full-blown documentaries on iPhones because they got like really great cameras in those phones now. I think the M1 and M1X or whatever you want to call these things, it's going to open a floodgate. I thought we already were flooded with content, but now we're going to be flooded at an exponentially higher number with even richer kind of content, where you're going to see somebody shoot something on an iPhone and win a Grammy at some point, and it's going to get to be standard at that. I mean, so I think, Steve, I hate to say it, I agree with you.
I know. I can deal with it. So I'm right.
I agree with you.
Fair enough.
Although, I mean, it's still, when you think about pre-2001 and now, and how different things are because of the iPod, the iPhone, the iPad, it's still a hard act of the one up with this M1 stuff.
They can do it. I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying, but I'm not sold on the creator economy. I think the last year has showed us just how important the essential workers are, and if anything, with the with an infrastructure bill and with the relief bill, I think we're going to see a renaissance of pick and shovel and all kinds of blue collar jobs that haven't been defined yet. I was doing a little research the other day on blue collar jobs, and when you talk about blue collar jobs, you think about the auto industry, but nobody gives a thought to machine lathe operators or machine tool makers. There's lots and lots of them out there, and they're essential to the final assembly lines. We don't see them, and until you get an industry up and running, you don't realize how many tributaries there are to that mainstream.
Did you, Dennis? I'm just wondering. Did you see this is on point here. Did you see the Dyson launch of their new vacuum cleaner last week, where Dyson walked everyone through the manufacturing plan and showed how it was built?
I did not.
There was not a single human being anywhere. It was all these machines with robots doing stuff and passing what it did to the next thing, which then did the next thing, which then did the next thing. And then it assembled it. And this vacuum cleaner came out the other end, fully made. Not a single human being had touched it. So modern manufacturing is really kind of, it blew my mind. I didn't realize how far it already was gone.
I appreciate what you're saying. I'm wondering how deep that goes into the supply chain. It's one thing to say you can do final assembly without a human being touching the product, and that's great. But at some point, there's I imagine there's going to be a lot of people involved, either in up the supply chain or in the distribution channel.
Brent's got a cat now, by the way, Dennis.
I was just noticing, and I stuck it in the notes that just a couple of seconds ago, when your cat was rubbing his face against your face, and and Brent was caressing his football. I just saw those two images side by side, and it was just it was heartwarming.
It was heartwarming, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Thank you. We both thank you. Yeah.
Is heartwarming good for you, by the way?
Brent has
Literally warming the heart. Is that a good thing?
Yes.
Probably not.
Physiologically speaking, I wonder.
I doubt it. Well, I mean, look, you certainly want to get your heart rate up, and I imagine that that getting a heart rate up as well as getting it up also probably warms it up, since it's energy.
We better move on.
Anyway,
we better move on.
But I love the cat and the football. It was a great image, and that's all I got to say.
Let me kind of move away from that. What about the promise of the M1 and the M1X and other Apple potential chips to more manufacturing kind of things? Why would it just stop at digital stuff? Why wouldn't it actually have a pretty significant impact on traditionally manual kind of stuff?
Well, it will, but not in the form of the M1 chip. It's the broader concept of system on a chip is very custom to what the use case is. So the use case for a Mac, which we've all just talked about, especially creative stuff with lots of bandwidth needed and lots of number crunching. The M1 is especially designed for that use case. ARM this week announced a new version of the core tech within the M1, which is a massive upgrade to the previous one, by the way. And ARM just does designs. They don't make chips. So those designs will now feed into the next generation. And a manufacturer can now build a system on a chip for a dedicated use case. If they have the skills and they know what they're doing, ARM will sell them the designs. So I think what you're going to find is ARM will more and more be integrated into more and more things. If you remember, ARM was bought by SoftBank for, what was it, 35 billion or something, then sold to NVIDIA, which is still in question. And NVIDIA has GPUs. Now it has ARM. So you got to assume that NVIDIA is going to be at the center of the world for the next 10,
Yeah.
20 years.
Where are they located?
Yeah.
They're located here in Mountain View. But to your point, to Dennis's, the thing is, Steve, it's all about scale. The entire tech industry is a tiny fraction of world GDP, which is why Dennis ultimately is right. No matter how good tech is, it doesn't move the needle for the world. Because construction and military and all of that dwarfs it.
That's
Right.
right.
Retail, I mean, all these things dwarf tech. Health, education.
Yeah, real estate. Real estate is can be a real mom and pop operation. But 30 years ago, I did a survey in my state, and it was the #1 industry.
Real estate. Huh.
Yeah. Well, when you talk about construction, maintenance, sales, service.
Yeah, the economy is still basically what it was structurally in like 1850. The world economy. It's just more globalized, but the core components have shifted somewhat. Military's bigger, education's bigger, health is bigger.
Agriculture is way smaller. Right?
Agriculture is, I actually don't know the answer to that. Maybe Dennis does.
Agriculture in terms of number of people employed or in terms of output?
Gross value of output.
Oh, gross, it has to be greater. I mean, there's only about, in the United States, there's only about 2% of the population lives out in the country and grows
Right.
things.
So Apple, if you think of Apple's valuation at 2 trillion, and the world GDP is 85 trillion, growing, that's still amazing. One company has
It's
got
unbelievable.
2 out of 85.
So
Well, it's
let's
valuation.
apply the Rip Van Winkle experience. Let's say you fall asleep in 1950 and you wake up today, and you walk down the street. What's the big change that you're going to immediately see?
Much cooler cars.
Yeah, but they don't fly.
Yeah,
Right?
still.
Okay.
Mobile phones.
I
Right.
mean,
That's right. Mobile phones, and this vectors completely into the thing that has been mandated by the pandemic, which is work from anywhere. People are living both in their physical presence, and they're also connected to their job, their family, their friends, the political situation. I mean, there was just a small attack, hopefully, in Washington, just within the last few minutes. That's what's going on in the last hour or so. We're keeping in our heads this enormous amount of information and trying to sort through it and prioritize it to the point where the information channels that we use to absorb this and avoid going crazy are dominant in our lives. So is that about mobile phones? No, those are computers, and they're going into our eyeglasses and into our contact lenses and into our ears, and all of the basic senses are being dominated by this technology.
So that's fantastic example of innovation where reduction in size and price results in human experience delivered more broadly than ever before, and it's transformational of the individual's life, and that will go on and on and on, and it will be cheaper and cheaper, and more people will be able to do it. But it also represents a tiny fraction of world GDP. So if you're trying to fix people's lives,
look at the streaming industry, and look what it's doing to I mean, what's the total amount? And I don't know the answer. Maybe you do. Of money moving through the entertainment and media systems. That's completely being overturned at the moment. There's an enormous shift underway. Now you can say that the information workers are a small subset of the gross national product, but I'll bet you that's not true.
Take a look at the
No,
map
it is
that
true,
I
by the
just
way.
posted when you get a chance that shows the media universe today.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it's an amazing graphical image of the entire media universe, everything from Apple and Microsoft and Samsung to Discovery and NBC Universal and Warner Brothers. It really sort of puts into perspective in a graphic way what you just talked about, Steve.
But just
it
to
is
give you the numbers, streaming revenue is projected to reach, this is video, $71 billion this year and 108 billion by 2025. And smartphone sales this year were $409 billion. So these are tiny numbers in the big
Yeah,
picture.
but you keep making the same point over and over again. What I'm asking is, at what point do we notice that the purchases and the jobs that are out there in the real world, if you exclude information technology, are dominated by these devices and these tools?
But what
How do we know what to buy? What are we interested in? Where do we find out about it? How does social media impact on the cycle of events and sports and the fall season and all those things that used to be dominant in the entertainment and media businesses? That's completely shifted.
yeah,
In
well,
the
it's
last
not, it's
6
not,
months, it's changed enormously.
well, yeah, you're right, but the right word to use isn't shifted, but destroyed. Innovation destroys former value pools that are no longer justifiable because technology has now made it cheaper and faster to do better what we did before expensively and slower and worse. So in terms of value, the pie is shrinking, but the winners get all of it, and the losers go out of business, and that's normal. And so what we're seeing here is what we should want to see, which is more things, more cheaply, more easily, delivered via technology, and that's all good. I'm not pushing down on it. I'm just questioning whether that saves America versus China. It doesn't.
no. Losers, to go to step back once, losers adapt. And so, and then the point, and this is going to sound a little muddled, but 1950, how many newspapers were there? And so I go to sleep in 1950 and I wake up in 2021. And that world has shifted. The media world, which is not the media world that is, yet it is still an important.
Yeah, there were 14. There were 14 newspapers in the New York metropolitan area in 1950.
So and so
now there are how many? 2.
And what was you don't count the New York Post, and what was
no, the Daily News I don't count.
Okay, what was isn't it still exists. What was still is, but it is different. So it adapted and it became something else, and it's still the town crier, and it's still the water cooler. It's just a new version of
right.
that.
There's a battle for the water cooler. That's exactly right. That's what Clubhouse is. You can turn the camera on now.
And all of those other
turning it off.
And all of those other things that are trying to compete with Clubhouse. That my one wonders, for example, and there you go. See you, Brent. One wonders, for example, if something with the power of a Twitter, and it's or even a Facebook, and those huge numbers that live inside of those platforms, those people who have not had an opportunity, have not been invited, to Clubhouse, are I'm sorry, or haven't had a chance to play with NFTs.
He's trying to get a twofer.
I-
He's going for
Yeah,
a
he
twofer.
wants a close up.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can get us down.
There
There you
he's got
go.
it.
If all of a
Okay.
sudden, anyway, okay, there goes. Steve is going to cut himself out.
Boom.
If these
Is
things
this becoming like a drinking game? We all take shots when we hear NFT or something?
it's not going to do me any good.
I'm just waiting for you all to turn off, and then I can do my monologue.
Oh, wait, I'm going to do the monologue this time.
Anyway,
That was
I
just
got,
a trick
I'm
to
done.
get
I got
Andrew.
nothing else.
Hey,
Come back, Steve.
Can I
back.
I'm
say
here. I'm right here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
can I just say one thing about the 1950s thing? When I thought about the 1950s and waking up today, one of the big things that came to my mind is that there's lots less variety. Frank mentioned newspapers. Stephen, when he was here, talked about 14 newspapers. But in 1950, there were very few national chain stores. Everything was local, mom and pop. There was, McDonald's might have been 5 outlets in Southern California. So in a perverse way, what Keith was talking about the winners taking all, there's a lot less choice, and yeah, the winners get most of it. If you go to small town America, you can still go to the diner or the greasy spoon, but if you live where most of the population lives, those kinds of places are hard to find. It's McDonald's and Pizza Hut and whatever else, and
and the virus has created an even worse situation when it comes to that kind of thing. You certainly, since I'm not in America right now, I haven't walked down Fifth Avenue or Madison Avenue, and I haven't seen the boarded up offices and buildings there. But I do go down the high streets here, and the number of even the small mom and pop shops, aside from the fact that there's all this competition for what they do, are closed. And I think that's a real shame. So it's not. So it's,
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say, maybe this is for another time, but it would be an interesting conversation to say what happens over the next 18 to 24 months. What does the bounce back look like? I mean, things will be different after COVID, but things are not going to be completely diametrically different. There are going to be a lot of things that hold over and some things that come back. Hi, Steve. Welcome back.
No, I've been here all along. Go ahead.
I'm thinking it would be a very interesting conversation to ask, what's coming back and what's not.
I agree.
Hey.
One of the things
I'd like to hear just one example of what you're saying. What's coming back?
Well, we make a big deal about work from home or work from anywhere. But at the same time, social psychologists are telling us that people really miss the office. They miss the water cooler. They miss getting a sandwich at the local deli, if there is one. They miss the camaraderie of work. So I'm not sure that we're going to remain 100% or whatever percent we are working from home. I think. Did
you see what Google announced? Did you see Google's announcement this week about
Welcome them back?
Yeah.
Well, you have to go back, and you have to apply if you want to work from home more than 14 days a year.
CNN did pretty much the same thing with all of its employees as well. I mean, but I think that we'll be talking about. I think it's a good idea, Dennis. We'll be talking about what's going to come back, but not necessarily in a sort of a black and white way of looking at it. There certainly will be hybrid solutions. Google is one. If you apply for it, you get the opportunity not to have to go back in. So there's going to be a lot of here's something new as opposed to what's going to come back. I think that's another part of that conversation.
Yeah, I think, Frank, you're hitting it right on the head. It's a question of what does the hybrid look like?
You know, I wanted to mention something that we right at the very beginning that we didn't talk about, which is I believe that the CDC made an announcement today or not long ago about if you're vaccinated, the travel restrictions are off. I don't want to say that and be wrong about that, because I
Well,
only read a little bit of it before we came online. Does anybody have any information
Yeah,
about that?
yeah. What they said, Frank, is if you're vaccinated, you can travel internationally without needing to take a test prior to leaving, unless your destination requires it, and as well as domestically. Domestically, you don't need to take a test because no one requires it. And they said, however, on the inbound, you do, even if you're vaccinated, you have to get a negative test before taking off. So it's
So leaving the UK, that hasn't changed. I still have to get a negative test
Yeah.
3 days before I get on the
Yeah,
plane.
yeah,
But
but
when
there's
I get to the
no
quarantine
quarantine,
in America and no test to come back.
no test to come back, unless the UK requires it. Then you do.
Well, the UK requires that you come back and that you quarantine for 10 days now and have 2 tests on the
They'll-
2nd and the 8th day.
They'll change that once they catch up with the vaccination point. There'll be a new rule there, I'm sure, for people who are vaccinated.
What about
However,
what about intrastate?
Interstate, you can just travel.
No, next 8 months. What do you think? You think that borders are going to be open or closed in between states?
Open for people who are vaccinated. Question mark whether they're going to. South Korea brought a vaccinated passport this week. I'm going to suspect it's very tempting to give people who are vaccinated some kind of a proof. And give them special rights that people who are not vaccinated will not have.
And this is fine. This is the complete vaccination. Yeah, I have. We get those too. But why is it? This is not to change the subject. That's kind of on the same vein. Why are the Republicans so much against a vaccine passport? Can someone explain that to me?
Individual rights.
Yeah, but they like voter ID, so.
Yeah. Individual rights. Yeah, that's like, is that like internet security?
They like vote from mail, when it's their gerrymander.
Yeah, unfortunately,
the other thing worth saying is that
we don't want to get vaccinated. So to cause them to carry a passport would only accentuate the fact that they are not vaccinated.
The other thing this week, which I think is key to Dennis's question about what happens next, is the ambiguity around the efficacy of the efficacy of well, what does it mean when you're vaccinated? Can you contract? Can you carry? Can you become a passer of the virus when you're vaccinated? And at first he said, absolutely not, you're fine. And now they changed it to, well, actually, the science isn't in yet. And there are indications that you can still catch COVID even if you've been vaccinated on the margin. And we don't think you can pass it, but actually you might be able to. And so there's some ambiguity about what we will have achieved once all is said and done.
Didn't they just announce that that the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines now are good for 6 months, when they had originally thought it was only going to be some 3 months? Is that something else I think I stumbled across today?
I didn't see that.
I saw something like that, but the caveat was that we've only studied it for 3 months, so that's all we're signing up for.
I heard 6 months.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
I did too.
Pfizer.
It seems to me that
Honestly, guys, I think once you've gotten vaccinated, you've got a population of B lymphocytes that'll make antibodies till the cows come home. The question becomes, does the virus mutate, and are those antibodies still effective?
right. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So it's the unknown. I mean, the effort is required anyway. and then we'll find out. But it's not to be discounted that the problem morphs into a different problem.
Oh, count on it. Yeah, I would agree. That's what living systems do.
Well, I wonder what you guys think about corporate responsibility in terms of boycott.
Georgia law.
Yeah.
It's funny to see the big brand CEOs all of a sudden start coming out after being shamed
Flip-flopping.
into doing so.
They flip-flopping.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a boycott still.
I saw Marco Rubio on Morning Joe this morning doing a cell phone video of himself, slamming into Coca-Cola and what was the other company?
Delta.
Delta. And I just thought, God, these guys
So stupid.
these guys have no self-awareness of who they are and what their natural audience is. They're prepared to go to the wall and die on a emotional reaction that the people who are most likely to support them are in their gun sights.
Yeah.
You think that
Literally.
you think that they're so completely confused? There's no upside for their behavior?
There is. They're going to turn into a populist right wing, bottoms up. When Dennis talked at the start of the show about the Republican Party being kind of smashed by Trump, that's true if it's like taking a photograph of the present. But if you turn it into a movie and roll it forward 10 years, it looks like they're going to turn into a really right wing, or if not the whole of the Republicans, certainly a lot of them, a right wing, mass, at the core, racist and individualistic organization.
Yeah, but what does that translate into in terms of numbers? I mean, it strikes me that what we're going to see, and I'd invite your comment, what we're going to see is the Republican Party going back into a John Birch Society shell, and not being any kind of real effective influence on the national discussion.
It's true, but don't forget Biden's popularity rating, which is at an all-time high. I think it was 52% I saw this week. So it's still a massively divided country. You can't really predict it. There are bad potential outcomes and there are good ones.
I bet the trend, and what I'm seeing is conservatism has passed its sell-by date.
I hope that's true. I want that to be true. But then fascism might come into its sell-by date.
Yeah.
Or Antifa will become a thing.
So I want to tie this in a little bit with the notion, I think Keith mentioned it about Google insisting on mandating back to work. Is that a harbinger? I think it's a harbinger of a mistake that's being made by companies and that it reminds me of it used to be that if you were at Microsoft and the heyday of Microsoft, not that they're not doing well now, which they are, when there was, if you weren't on campus, you weren't there. You had to be present.
And isn't it weird that Google, of all people, who have got Google Meet, they've got all the infrastructure of remoteness. It blowed me away. I couldn't believe that they would do that.
It blowed you away?
It blew me away. It's
Sorry.
English.
Sacre blew me away.
Yeah, sacre bleu. I like bringing it back full circle.
I like blowed. He was blowed away.
Blowed
That
me
was
away.
great.
I'm going to use that cattail.
So I was distracted for a second, but What are you guys talking about now? I was asking
Your
about,
question.
yeah. So how's that going?
It is a surprise to me that it would be Google who would make that kind of, and to a certain extent, even a company like CNN, which is, you know, all of these media companies, these certainly the news media companies, have figured out how to produce from outside. I've got friends of mine who are directing shows with multiple cameras from multiple locations from their living rooms. And reporters and anchors who are in
Yeah,
their
I wonder how they do
kitchens
that.
and exactly and you know the correspondents who are sitting in their living rooms that with really better looking shots than we have here, although that shot's pretty great. If you put a light on that shot, Brent, man,
I
like,
will.
gonna
It's
be
coming.
killer.
Yeah, you
It'll
know
be
what,
killer.
You call that
Brent, you've
mood-
got the
mood
camera
cam.
set to RAW.
Yeah.
The camera's set to RAW, and you haven't got an LUT. You're not using a
Actually,
LUT.
it's the whatever right out of the box. I haven't done any playing around with it yet.
So it's
It's
going to look a lot
it's
better
got-
than that next week.
Oh yeah, and I'm going
It's
to learn how
got
to color grade
crazy-
too.
It's got crazy good resolution once you get the thing the colors lined up and
Oh, yeah.
put a light on it. It's gonna blow. It's gonna blow this other shot away. But I mean, you know, it is. We are set up now to be a work from home country, and we've got it down. It's a system and it works really well. I actually think this goes back to Dennis's point about having this conversation about where do we go from here. And adding my point about we are where we are. It's going to be something that we amend, not something that we do differently.
So Tina says, are the companies wrong?
Yeah, if Larry and Sergey are listening, here's what you just
Who?
told me.
Larry,
Larry, so you know,
the
you know
Google-
they're
if
friends.
the-
Larry, Sergey,
if Sundar is listening,
Thank
here's
you.
what you just told the world. Please go back to Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint on your computer in the office, because we're going back to the office, so you don't need our cloud services anymore. That's basically what they've said to the world. And the reason they've said it is Google's management has a control freak problem. If you look at the way they handled the whole diversity stuff in artificial intelligence, they have a control freak problem. They can't tolerate individuals with their own ideas in their organization. And they're scared that if they're not in front of their eyes, they're wasting time or not working. They are basically like Stalinists when it comes to how they manage the company.
oh
And
yeah,
it's
that sounds very 19th century, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But you know, there's one thing at least that argues against some of this, and it is that we have been in a social era, a heightened social era, for about 10 years now, since Facebook launched, which was what, 06, maybe, I don't know, 15 years.
Around there.
All right, so if we're talking about a new thing, a new normal, with M1 chips and things, yeah, we can do a lot to bring people together across the internet to get work done. But I think people, maybe the people at Google, are seeing that despite their paranoia, or even with their paranoia, there's something special and valuable about bringing people together to work together face to face.
Oh, I totally agree with that, but I think that it's a power play on the part of management. And my question is not whether it will be effective short term, but whether it will be very negative for them longer term when you know the people that have learned how to be able to get along in a pandemic environment, which is not going to significantly change for some time to come. We may all be reasonably sure now that if we get the vaccine, that we can stay out of a hospital and dying. I think that's pretty much a really, really good thing. But beyond that, the water cooler has there are no solutions. I know that Keith would disagree with this about, Hopin and, all of these big, interactive plays. But, the ability to be able to manage collaboration is up for grabs and will continue to be up for grabs. And mandating a situation which flows to a current ability on management's part to mandate some rules may well backfire. That's just my intuition about it.
People won't want to work there for sure. Absolutely for sure.
This is the new face-to-face. Let's just.
Also, if we were to make a list of the jobs that require face-to-face, and it's better face-to-face, I think that list is really shrinking.
Yeah.
It's all of medicine.
Yeah.
All of medicine.
And think of it. I don't know how it is there, but here in the UK, you don't get an initial engagement with a GP or your surgery without actually doing it first online with video. That is 100% of. Is it the same there? 100% of the way it is. And you can say, look, I want to come in and I want to see the doctor. I want the doctor to see this thing on me. They want to see it on video first.
You know what might be a big determinant is right now we got two things happening, and if we take one of them away, that'll clarify the situation. The thing that we take away is sending the kids back to school. Right now, there's a lot of people trying to juggle homeschooling and work, and we may not really understand the value of working at home until we don't have the distraction of kids. But just cats.
I think cats. I think that's got a lot to do with why all of a sudden everyone's talking about the vaccination for kids.
Yeah. 100% effective.
Yeah. Tails.
All right.
Cat tail. That's your image right there.
Okay.
Get that.
So once around the horn, and let's start with Michael Markman. Oh, wait.
That was quick.
Well, we hope that his dog is going to come through this. Keith's here.
Great show. One thing we didn't talk about on purpose is CLUBHOUSE.
MOUSE.
Where
Why? Because we love you.
TechCrunch did its equity podcast and announced that Clubhouse will create billions of dollars of value, but not own any of it. So there's all these doom merchants now, and I think they're wrong. I think they're wrong, but there's lots of evidence that they're bringing to bear to suggest they're not wrong. So we have to see.
Clubhouse is a media play. Andreessen Horowitz is a dominant, or not dominant, but giant player in the media industries through this loss leader that's called Clubhouse. It's a huge move.
It's a huge move, but it won't be a loss leader. It'll be worth billions of dollars.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I'm just, what I'm saying is that we talk about Clubhouse as though it's this fun house on the boardwalk. It's once you've disrupted the media with these incredible tools and services, then it starts to generate from below. And what we're seeing with Andreessen Horowitz is that they've commandeered there's some pushback, but their transparency, as long as they maintain it, is going to give them authority and credibility in the media space.
Yeah, I watched a podcast, a video blog this week from Greycroft, which is Alan Patrikoff's New York-based venture fund, championing the fact that they turned away from media 2 years ago, like they were really smart, and I just laughed. It's like, they're by the way, very impressive venture firm that's got a great track record. But this is the time to lean into media, not to turn away from it. It's transforming in front of our eyes, and it'll be a different beast 5 years from now than it is today, and there'll be a ton of value created.
Frank Radis.
I think GE is probably lamenting the fact that they pulled out of the media world when they did, because it seemed like it was just at the very beginning of it, and that's when GE was heading downwards. I wanted to give a shout out to one great April Fool's gag that the First Lady pulled on the press plane, which I don't know if you'd heard about it, but she put on a flight attendant's outfit and a black wig, and I think she called herself, I don't know, she has some Hispanic name, as she walked up and down and served the press drinks and food. And in the end, when she came in and pulled off her wig, they had all been honestly taken, as well as had her staff. So I just think that's a pretty cool thing, really.
Esperanza.
Esperanza. I thought it was pretty cool. And one final note, and don't cut off here, Dennis. Just bear with me for a second. About a week ago, I mentioned that an artist friend of mine was going through this real rigmarole of trying to get his artwork and making NFTs and creating a situation using Ethereum to put them out and get them bid on. And just a couple of days ago, he announced that he had sold one of his pieces of art as an NFT for $4 million. And I think, Keith, you even chimed in on this, that we were all saying, well, that's really great. Let us all know when you've converted it. And of course, it was an April Fool's joke. But, so I was going to say NFTs is April Fool's.
NFT.
By the way, the Beeple guy converted his 69 million, or his share of it, into dollars immediately, which is like a totally dumb thing to do.
Well, but wait, interestingly enough, we didn't talk about this, but didn't I read that PayPal is going to now allow you to do business using cryptocurrency, using Bitcoin?
Yeah, in thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of outlets. But I still don't think cryptocurrency is a means of exchange, apart from something called USDC, which Visa announced they're going to allow settlements in USDC, which is a stable coin. So the whole line between crypto and fiat is going to totally go away. There'll be no difference. But
so if I'm PayPal, though, I want to collect as many Bitcoins as I possibly can and pay the vendors in cash and keep the Bitcoin.
Absolutely. That's what Elon Musk is doing. He's just selling Teslas for Bitcoin now because he'd rather have Bitcoin than dollars.
There you go.
Okay. That was longer than I wanted.
You could put a lower third up again.
Brent Leary.
I saw Jim Youngblood and Merlin Olsen's autographs.
Wow.
This is, I'm still going through this with fine-tooth comb. Other than that, let's see. We didn't talk about the dude has like all these like millions of subscribers on YouTube, trying to start his own venture fund from his followers.
Yeah, but if you read back through his career, he's been doing this for years.
He's been trying for a while, but who knows? Yeah. Maybe this is the time. I mean, to be able to convert your subscribers into venture capital, I'm kind of interested to see it. And he got some endorsements from some pretty big names. So this is something to check out. This is another one of these reasons why it's nice to have a subscriber list, I guess.
And it's a dedicated approach as well. He's investing in Gen Z founders.
Notice how, everybody talks about this for a second, and then Keith comes in and explains why this is all good. Dennis.
I'm a happy guy.
Isn't he the chief impact officer or something like that?
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so. Dennis.
So, really interesting, wide-ranging conversation. What somebody, I think Frank brought up, or maybe it was Keith. I think it'd be interesting to have a conversation at some point about how we make money 10 years from now. It's one thing to say, well, media is going to heat up, or M1 chips are great, but how do we make money? Because if we can answer that question, I'm going to go buy some stock.
I think infrastructure is one way, but that's just me.
It almost sounds like what was that 60s movie with Mrs. Robinson, where the guy's walking up.
Graduate?
Plastics is your
Plastic.
Plastics. I always
One
used
word
to,
for you. Plastics.
I always wanted to have a guy walk around. When I was at NBC, I dreamt about having somebody walk around behind me that I could just turn around and say, make it out of plastic, and then go to lunch. And then, come back and there would be this thing made out of plastic, whatever it was. I mean, figuratively, I always wanted that. And it was a big dream of mine. And I absolutely never got it. Anyway.
How to make money is a bit like when Frank said at the start of the show, Keith, you're going to live for the rest of your life. Or commentators say things like, if it would have hit the net, he would have scored a goal. And
Keith, of all the people I know, you're one of them.
exactly.
That's like
So-
Bear, isn't it?
How to make money is to invest into winners early.
Yeah, there you go. Sell,
If they don't
Buy
win, they
low.
didn't invest.
buy low,
And then
sell
sell
high.
when everybody shows up.
Bye, Brett.
Spread the loss among, the populace.
That's what
Yeah.
she said.
Okay, great. Well, I'm looking forward to next week, if there is a next week. And I want to thank our producer and director, Tina Chase Gilmore. Who is it who dropped out?
And
Brent.
I had to take a phone call, but I'm back. I'm back
Oh,
for the end.
I thought it was a political comment. Thanks to Tina Chase Gilmore.
Use the other camera, Brent, for the goodbye.
Oh, let me. I got to turn it off because the battery in this thing is terrible. All right, let's see.
Yeah.
It's there.
Thank you.
you got to get the battery grip that puts two of the batteries in, so you get 3 batteries and it lasts 3 hours.
I just want a dummy. Wait a minute. I just want a dummy battery that I
thing.
could put in, so I could, because I'm not planning on going outside with this.
Can't AC it?
You want to see it?
No, I'm saying, can you
AC.
use AC power? AC power.
Yeah, you can get it. They're all backward. Everything camera, video related. You can't get. It's just ridiculous.
Now, see, this would be a good clubhouse, is ATEM mini workshop. So,
How to make money would be a better clubhouse. Everyone would show
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
There it is.
Ooh. We could charge admission.
all right.
How to make money.
That's how we would make money.
Okay, so really quickly, thank you, Keith Tier.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank Radis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis Pombriant.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Brent Leary.
Thank you, Paul Greenberg.
I just, generically thank you, Paul Greenberg. And let's give a warm shout out to Michael Markman and his contributions, particularly to this show, which are on the Gilmore Gang Telegram feed at address, Keith.
T.me/Gilmore Gang, all one word.
2
Sounds
L's.
like a lower third, Tina.
There you go.
Thanks to everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.